I just had very simple objectives as an actor to try different things and challenge myself as often.
He was Iceman, flying alongside Maverick in the danger zone. He was Batman, donning the cape and cowl. He was Jim Morrison, channeling the Lizard King so convincingly it gave people the creeps. Then, the blockbusters stopped. The leading roles disappeared. His voice vanished. So what really happened to Val Kilmer? The boy from Los Angeles. Val Edward Kilmer was born on December 31st, 1959, in Los Angeles, California. He was the second of three sons born to Gladys Swanette Eckstadt and Eugene Doris Kilmer, an industrialist and real estate developer. His mother was Swedish, his father had Irish, German, and Cherokee roots. When Val was 8 years old, his parents divorced in 1968. 2 years later, his mother married William Bernard Leach. Val was raised with Christian Science beliefs, which he maintained for most of his life. Those beliefs would later play a significant role in how he approached his health struggles, but that was far in the future. As a boy, Val attended Chatsworth High School in the San Fernando Valley, where he became friends with actors Kevin Spacey and Mare Winningham. Then, in 1977, tragedy struck. Val's younger brother Wesley, who had epilepsy, drowned in a hot tub. He was only 16 years old. Val was 17. The loss shaped him profoundly, leaving a wound that never fully healed. In interviews decades later, Val would still speak about Wesley with deep emotion, describing how the tragedy changed his family forever. Despite the pain, or perhaps because of it, Val threw himself into acting. He studied at the Hollywood Professional School before heading to New York at age 17. In 1977, he was accepted into the drama program at Juilliard School. At that time, he was the youngest student ever accepted into the prestigious program. It was a remarkable achievement that said everything about his raw talent and potential, a sign that Val Kilmer had extraordinary talent that could take him anywhere he wanted to go. Breaking through. Val's professional acting career began on stage. In 1983, he made his Broadway debut in The Slab Boys alongside Sean Penn and Kevin Bacon. The production gave him credibility as a serious stage actor, but film was calling. In 1984, Val made his feature film debut in Top Secret, an espionage spoof where he played a blonde rock idol named Nick Rivers. The movie was silly, campy fun that let Val show his comedy chops and his singing voice. In 1985, he appeared in Real Genius, a teen comedy about brilliant young scientists. Val played Chris Knight, a genius slacker at a technical university. The film became a cult classic, though it wasn't a major hit at the time. Val was working, building a resume, but he hadn't broken through yet. Not quite. That changed in 1986. Director Tony Scott was casting Top Gun, a film about Navy fighter pilots. The studio wanted the biggest names they could get. Tom Cruise was already attached as Maverick, the hotshot pilot who would be the film's hero. They needed someone to play Iceman, Maverick's arrogant rival, someone who could match Cruise's charisma and intensity. Tony Scott wanted Val Kilmer, but Val didn't want the part. Years later, he wrote in his memoir that he didn't care about the film, that the story didn't interest him. He thought it was just another military propaganda movie, but Scott kept pursuing him, promising that Val's role would be improved from the initial script. Eventually, Val agreed. Top Gun opened in May 1986. It became a cultural phenomenon, earning over $356 million worldwide. The film made Tom Cruise a superstar. It made Val Kilmer famous. His Iceman was cold, competitive, disciplined, everything Maverick wasn't. The scenes between them crackled with tension. Val had the jaw, the looks, the presence. He was movie star material, and now everyone knew it.
Jim he did something one night that was so important. What were you talking about?
The Doors and stardom. In 1988, Val starred in Willow, Ron Howard's fantasy epic co-written by George Lucas. On that set, he met British actress Joanne Whalley. They fell in love. Later that year, they married. In 1989, they appeared together again in Kill Me Again, a crime thriller. But it was 1991 that truly made Val Kilmer a star. Director Oliver Stone was making a biopic about Jim Morrison, the legendary frontman of The Doors, who had died in 1971 at age 27. Stone cast Val as Morrison. It was a huge opportunity and a massive risk. Jim Morrison was an icon, a poet, a rock god. Getting him wrong would destroy Val's credibility. Val didn't get him wrong. He spent nearly a year preparing for the role, dressing in Morrison-like clothing, spending time at Morrison's favorite Hollywood hangouts, absorbing everything about the man. He learned Morrison's mannerisms, his movements, the way he held a microphone, and he sang. Val performed all the concert pieces himself, his baritone voice so similar to Morrison's that even band members were unsettled. When the doors opened, critics were stunned. Roger Ebert wrote that Val looked so uncannily like Jim Morrison that it felt like possession rather than casting. The performance was the best thing in the movie. John Densmore, the Doors drummer, said Val's channeling of Morrison was so close it gave him the creeps on set. Val had disappeared into the role completely. Suddenly, Val Kilmer was hot. Studios wanted him. In 1991, their daughter Mercedes was born. Val was now a father and a rising star. In 1993, he had cameos playing the spirit of Elvis Presley in Quentin Tarantino's True Romance. Later that year, he played Doc Holliday in Tombstone, the Western starring Kurt Russell as Wyatt Earp. As Doc Holliday, Val was magnetic. Dying from tuberculosis, sharp with his wit, and faster with his gun, Holliday was cultured, doomed, darkly funny. Val filled his bed with ice for the final scene to mimic what dying from tuberculosis would feel like. His showdown scene with Johnny Ringo became iconic. Kurt Russell later praised Val's work, saying it was absolutely great working with him. The film earned $56 million and became a cult classic. In 1995, Val appeared in two major films. First was Heat, Michael Mann's crime epic starring Al Pacino and Robert De Niro. Val played Chris Shaherlis, a member of De Niro's crew of professional thieves. The bank robbery sequence is one of the most intense ever filmed, with Val right in the middle of the action. Director Michael Mann later marveled at Val's range, the brilliant variability in how he possessed and expressed character. Batman and Trouble. Also, in 1995, Val took on the role of Batman in Joel Schumacher's Batman Forever. Michael Keaton had played Batman in the previous two films, but declined to return. Warner Bros. Needed a new Dark Knight. Val enthusiastically said yes without even reading the script. He was excited about playing such an iconic character, but the experience soured quickly. Batman Forever was different from the darker Tim Burton films. Schumacher wanted something more colorful, more family-friendly, more commercial. The production was huge, the costume was uncomfortable, and Val found himself constrained by the size and scope of everything. He later admitted he didn't even like the film. It was so different from the kind of work he wanted to do. During production, Val clashed with Schumacher. The director later called Val childish and impossible to work with. When it came time for the sequel, Batman and Robin, Val and Warner Bros. Couldn't agree to terms. Some said it was a scheduling conflict, others pointed to the tensions between Val and Schumacher. Either way, Val was out. George Clooney took over the role. By the mid-1990s, Val had developed a reputation in Hollywood for being difficult. Directors complained that he asked too many questions, that he challenged their decisions, that he wanted to talk through every scene. After The Island of Dr. Moreau in 1996, director John Frankenheimer said he didn't like Val, didn't like his work ethic, and didn't want to work with him ever again. But not everyone agreed with the difficult label. Mira Sorvino, his co-star in At First Sight, said Val was easy to work with, real professional and gentlemanly. She hated furthering rumors about actors being difficult because it could damage careers, could prevent talented people from getting work they deserved. Drew Barrymore, who was in Batman Forever with him, said Val was so nice to her, protective even. The truth seemed to be that Val was intensely focused on his craft in a way that made some directors uncomfortable. He needed to immerse himself in characters completely. He wanted to understand motivations, to talk through scenes, to make sure every choice made sense. Director DJ Caruso, who worked with Val on The Salton Sea, said Val simply liked to talk out scenes and enjoyed having a director's attention. Val would ask a lot of questions, and a director like Schumacher would say, "You're Batman, just go do it." But that wasn't how Val worked. He couldn't just put on the suit and deliver lines. He needed to understand who this version of Batman was, what made him different, what drove him. Val wrote in his memoir that in his attempt to empower directors and collaborators to honor the truth of each project, in his attempt to bring life to Hollywood moments, he had been deemed difficult and alienated the head of every major studio. He didn't apologize for it. He had behaved poorly, he had behaved bravely, he had behaved bizarrely to some. He denied none of it and had no regrets. In 1995, Just weeks after their son Jack was born, Joanne Whalley filed for divorce. Val later said he learned he was getting a divorce while watching CNN in a hotel room. It was the second most expensive divorce in New Mexico history. Val and Joanne had been married for 8 years. They had 2 children together. Now it was over. The split was difficult, expensive, and painful for everyone involved.
I've worked with some of the most extraordinary actors in the world recently, none of them to misquote by Brando.
The Slide. After Batman Forever, Val's career trajectory changed. The big studio films became less frequent. He appeared in The Saint in 1997, playing a master of disguise, but the film didn't perform as well as hoped. He voiced Moses in the animated film The Prince of Egypt in 1998, a DreamWorks production that was well received. In 2004, he appeared in Alexander, Oliver Stone's epic about Alexander the Great, playing King Philip II of Macedon. But the major leading roles had dried up. Val later said he had alienated the head of every major studio. His reputation for being difficult, whether deserved or not, had caught up with him. Directors didn't want to deal with an actor who questioned everything, who needed attention, who made productions more complicated. In Hollywood, there are always younger actors who are easier to work with. Studios moved on. Val's films got smaller. Direct-to-video releases, low-budget independent films. He appeared in Joe the King in 1999, playing a paunchy, abusive alcoholic. In 2003, he played doomed porn star John Holmes in Wonderland. In 2005, he appeared in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang opposite Robert Downey Jr., a darkly comic thriller that earned him a Saturn Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor. The film was good, but it wasn't enough to revive his A-list status. Val threw himself into his one-man stage show, Citizen Twain, in which he played Mark Twain. He loved Mark Twain's work, referenced it frequently in interviews. The show let him perform on stage, connect with audiences directly, showcase his talent without Hollywood's interference. He told Variety in 2018 that he enjoyed the depth and soul the piece had, Twain's love for his fellow man and America. It was meaningful work, but it wasn't the movies. In 2010, Val appeared in MacGruber, a comedy based on a Saturday Night Live sketch. Critics and audiences enjoyed seeing him poke fun at his own tough guy image. It was a comeback of sorts, a sign that Val still had something to offer, but the momentum didn't last.
When you exchange laughter, it feels somehow really important.
Yes.
It really does, to be serious about comedy.
The diagnosis. In January 2015, rumors began circulating that Val had cancer. He went to the hospital on a medical emergency. The rumors spread quickly. Val took to Facebook to deny them, saying he had complications and was under watchful eyes. But that was all. In October, the rumors resurfaced. Again, Val denied them, maintaining his story even when he was seen with a tracheotomy tube. The truth was that Val had been diagnosed with throat cancer in 2015. He kept it private, refusing to confirm publicly for 2 years. His Christian Science beliefs made him reluctant to pursue conventional medical treatment. He believed in healing through prayer, through spiritual means. But eventually, the cancer forced his hand. Val underwent chemotherapy and radiation therapy. He had 2 tracheotomies, surgeries that saved his life but destroyed his voice. The procedures left him with a permanent breathing tube. Speaking became difficult, sometimes impossible. The voice that had sung as Jim Morrison, that had delivered Doc Holliday's quick wit, that had been such a key part of his instrument as an actor, was gone. In 2017, Val finally confirmed in an interview with The Hollywood Reporter that he'd had cancer. By that point, he couldn't hide it anymore. The tracheotomy tube was visible. His speech was labored, forceful, with him constantly pausing to catch his breath. He looked like a shadow of the man he'd been. The cancer battle had taken everything. His daughter Mercedes was going through her own trauma at the same time. She'd been hit by a car. She told The Hollywood Reporter that they were in the same hospital at the same time, father and daughter both fighting to recover. The family stayed close through the ordeal. Jack and Mercedes were devoted to their father, helping him navigate this new reality. Val and Maverick. In 2021, a documentary called Val premiered at the Cannes Film Festival. The film was assembled from decades of footage Val had shot himself, video he'd taken on film sets, with his family throughout his career. His son Jack narrated because Val's speech was too compromised. The documentary showed his struggles with cancer, his fight to continue working, the toll the disease had taken. It was raw, honest, deeply moving. Critics loved it. The documentary earned 2 Critics' Choice Documentary Awards. It gave audiences a chance to see Val as he really was, vulnerable, human, fighting to hold on to his identity as an actor when his primary tool, his voice, had been taken from him. Mercedes served as executive producer. She told reporters that her father's ability to communicate physically, to circumvent the limitations of his speech, taught her so much about acting. In 2022, Val made what many believed would be his final film appearance, Top Gun. Maverick brought back the original cast for a sequel set 36 years after the first film. Tom Cruise returned as Maverick, and Val returned as Iceman, now an admiral. The film dealt with Val's real-life condition by making Iceman's throat cancer part of the story. In their scene together, Iceman communicates by typing on a computer because he can't speak. It was art mirroring life in the most poignant way. The scene between Cruise and Kilmer was emotional. 2 old rivals who'd become friends, one of them dying. Maverick loses Iceman not long after their reunion. Top Gun. Maverick earned $1.49 billion worldwide, becoming one of the highest-grossing films of all time. Val's brief appearance was a reminder of what audiences had loved about him, that charisma and presence that had made him a star 4 decades earlier. The film gave him a chance to say goodbye to Iceman and to audiences who'd followed his career. In 2021, Val said he was cancer-free, that he'd beaten the disease, but the damage was done. His voice remained compromised. Acting opportunities were limited. He collaborated with Sonantic, a London-based software company, to digitally recreate his voice using AI and archived recordings. The technology gave him a way to communicate more easily, though it could never fully replace what he'd lost.
Getting into the music was a lot of fun, and I wasn't familiar with a lot of it that wasn't on the radio. So in preparation, mainly just learned all of the songs.
The end. On April 1st, 2025, Val Kilmer died of pneumonia at his home in Los Angeles. He was 65 years old. His children, Mercedes and Jack, were with him in his final moments. The illness followed years of complications from his throat cancer treatment. His body, weakened by the disease and the treatments that had saved him, couldn't fight off the pneumonia. Tributes poured in from across Hollywood. Tom Cruise honored his Top Gun co-star at CinemaCon, asking for a moment of silence, saying Val loved movies and gave a lot to everyone. Oliver Stone wrote that Val was brilliant, turbulent, contradictory, tortured, but exciting on film. Always exciting and fresh. The movies would miss him. Michael Mann, who directed Val in Heat, said he always marveled at Val's range, the brilliant variability in how he possessed and expressed character. Francis Ford Coppola, who directed Val in Twixt, called him the most talented actor in his high school, and that talent only grew greater throughout his life. He was a wonderful person to work with, and a joy to know. Val's ex-wife, Joanne Whalley, was photographed hugging their daughter Mercedes outside Mercedes' home in West Hollywood shortly after Val's death. Despite their divorce nearly 30 years earlier, they remained connected through their children. Joanne had encouraged Mercedes and Jack to be involved in the Val documentary, even though she didn't appear in it herself. The family, broken and reformed in different ways over the decades, came together in grief. What we lost. What really happened to Val Kilmer? He was a brilliant actor who got typecast as difficult when he was really just demanding excellence. He was a star who prioritized his craft over playing the Hollywood game. He made choices that alienated powerful people, and those choices cost him opportunities. He developed a reputation, fair or not, and that reputation followed him for decades. He was also a man who faced unimaginable tragedy, losing his brother at 16, who went through a painful divorce, who watched his career slide away from the heights it had reached. Then, cancer took his voice, the tool he'd used to become Jim Morrison, to bring Doc Holliday to life, to make Iceman unforgettable. The disease gave him back his life, but took away the thing that defined him. Val Kilmer had a magical career. He played icons and made them real. He brought intensity and commitment to every role, even when the material wasn't worthy of his talent. He annoyed directors, but impressed audiences. He was difficult because he cared, because he understood that movies matter, that performances matter, that the work should mean something. In his final years, stripped of his voice, but not his passion, Val showed a different kind of courage. He let cameras document his struggle. He returned to play Iceman one last time, letting millions see what cancer had done to him. He used technology to recreate his voice. He kept creating, kept sharing himself with the world, even when it would have been easier to disappear. Val Kilmer died on April 1st, 2025, leaving behind 2 children who loved him, a body of work that will endure, and memories of a talent that burned bright and complicated and true. He lived a magical life. He captured quite a bit of it, and we're lucky he shared it with us. If you enjoyed learning about what really happened to Val Kilmer, please like and subscribe to our channel for more stories about Hollywood's greatest talents.